We ready?
We are live.
The hour being 7:05 PM on Monday, January 13th, I'd like to call to order the City of Laconia City Council meeting. My apologies for starting 5 minutes late. That's my responsibility. Before we go any further, though, I'd ask you all to, you guys are like horses ready to come out of the gate.
I don't want to sit back down here.
Join me in Pledge of Allegiance. Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We are joined by Recording Secretary, City Clerk, Katie Gargano. I'd ask her to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney.
Here.
Counselor Susie.
Here.
Counselor Hoffman.
Present.
Counselor Haynes.
Here.
Counselor Bogert. Couch.
Here.
Mayor Hosmer.
I am present as well. We have a quorum. Moving along this evening on our agenda, agenda item number 7A, which is the acceptance of minutes from previous meetings. City Council regular meeting minutes of December 23rd, 2024. Those minutes were distributed on December 26th, 2024. With no corrections or changes submitted to the clerk, the minutes will be accepted as distributed. Agenda item number 8, under consent and action items, number 8A, it's a request to establish rental fees for Boardwalk and Weirs Boulevard vending spaces for Laconia Motorcycle Week 2025. Approval from the City Council is requested to confirm the rental fee for the Boardwalk and Weirs Boulevard vending spots for Laconia Motorcycle Week 2025 as described in your packet. One note is that the vendor fees for the boardwalk spaces were last increased for Laconia Motorcycle Week 2022, when the council approved increasing the fee from $1,500 per space to $1,750 per space. There are 16 vending spaces rented on the boardwalk for Laconia Motorcycle Week. Right now, I'll be looking for a motion to approve rental fees for Laconia Motorcycle Week 2025 vending spaces located on the boardwalk and Weirs Boulevard as presented. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask you all if you're in favor to raise your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Moving on to agenda item number 8B. Recommendation for appointments to the Lakes Region Planning Commission's Transportation Advisory Committee. Wes Anderson, Public Works Director, was previously the primary representative to the Lakes Region Planning Commission's Transportation Advisory Committee, and Nate Garrett, Assistant Public Works Director, acted as the alternate representative. Due to scheduling conflicts, it is requested that Nate Garrett be appointed as the primary representative to the committee. Tyler Carmichael, Assistant Planning Director, has offered to be the alternate representative. Counselor Susie, Chair of the Appointment Subcommittee, has determined that there is no need for the subcommittee to review these appointments. So right now, looking for a motion to move that the City Council approves the appointments to the Lakes Region Planning Commission's Transportation Advisory Committee as follows: Nate Garrett as the primary representative and Tyler Carmichael as the alternate representative, both for a 2-year term from January 13th, 2025 to January 13th, 2027. So made by Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Hoffman. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to ask all in favor to raise your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item number 9, citizen comments for matters not on the agenda. If someone is here, would like to speak to a matter that is not on tonight's agenda, now would be the appropriate time.
Good evening, Mayor
evening.
and councilors. Patrick Wood, Chair of the Human Relations Committee. Just a reminder that this weekend we begin the MLK celebration events, commemoration events. The first event is going to be on Saturday at 1 o'clock. It's going to be a showing of the movie Lost Boundaries about Dr. Albert Johnston from Keene. On the 19th, the Sunday following that, at 1:30, the doors open at the Colonial Theater. Program begins at 2 o'clock. How has the legacy of Dr. King impacted your life? There'll be a showing in the first part of the program of a documentary about the movie that was made in 1949, Lost Boundaries. And then there will be a panel discussion in the second half, along with some music. Again, the doors open at 1:30. You need to have tickets to be there, because even though it's free, there's no cost. Their mechanism to keep track of how they're being used at the Colonial Theater requires everyone to have a ticket. So please get your ticket. Then the following Saturday,
Patrick, where would we get those tickets if we wanted
you
them?
can get them at the Colonial Theater.
Right there, okay, thank you.
At the following Saturday, the 25th, again at 1 o'clock at the Laconia Public Library, will be another showing of this movie, Lost Boundaries. It's a very powerful story. I urge you all to be a part of this event. I know you have in the past attended. This will be a very special afternoon on Sunday, and then the showing of the movies on Saturdays. So you're all invited to attend. We'd love to see you there, and thanks for all of your support as well. So, any
Thank you, Patrick.
questions? Okay, thank you.
Anyone else like to speak to a matter not on the agenda?
Good evening. So my name is Sean Flanagan. I live at 24 Allen Ave, the Weirs. And I was disturbed last week when I read the paper that the zoning board, planning board, had changed the zoning ordinances for Laconia, for the Weirs area. Particularly, they added Lakeside Ave as an added option to have a casino on Lakeside Ave. So my question is, number one, and it says here, the planning board members later added Lakeside Ave, but restricted the entrance from same to reduce potential traffic congestion. What does that mean? Are they gonna go there by boat, or what? What is the?
It's a difficult question to pose to us.
I
because
know,
it's-
I know. it's,
Hold
you
on
know,
one second, Mr.
premature.
Bryant, hold on.
Yeah.
Because we're not the planning board, so what they
Right.
said and how they said it in the context is tough. But I've got a pretty good backup, and that is Counselor Cheney is the representative from the city council. Maybe he can shed some light on it, but I would suggest a lot of these questions might be brought right to the planning board, so they can answer directly, but let's try with
First,
Counselor
if I
Cheney.
might, the planning board did not change the ordinance at this point. We're looking at the change.
Okay.
The discussion was whether or not to, among other things, whether or not to allow a casino on Lakeside Ave. My argument was, if that happens, and it could, someone could buy, I suppose, the military
The veterans' home, they're gonna
veterans
buy
home
those?
club. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Assume
Concept, yeah.
for the moment they
All right.
did. I didn't want to see them have access from Lakeside Ave, so all access would have to come down from
Endicott.
Endicott Street. That was the point of this, was to prevent access and people piling up to go up into the casino from there. There are still a lot of questions to be answered.
I'm probably premature, but I.
No, that's not premature. And I'm glad you came, because it gives us a chance to say to you and others, come to the planning board, as the mayor has suggested, and speak to us about these issues. The planning director is trying to work through the language that we might approve, but it would help an awful lot if folks like you came and helped us out. You probably could give us some good ideas about where it may or may not be possible to put a casino up.
I think at the end of the day, you guys, if this whole process gets to the city council, where you guys will approve it or disapprove or change it, and maybe I can talk to planning board, but you have in your hands a beautiful area that you can either choose to develop it to look like Atlantic City in Springfield, Massachusetts, or like Wolfboro and Meredith. And it's up to you guys to see what the future of the Weirs area is gonna be. Thank you.
Step right up.
Evening. My name's Tom Scribner, and I live in Hill, and I've been around Laconia since 1963. I've worked and lived in Laconia, But I'm here tonight because last spring it was said that the engineering study would be released for the Antique Mall building. What's the status of that?
So the Antique Mall building, are you talking about 601 Main Street?
Next to the Colonial,
Okay, 601
there
Main
was an
Street.
assessment being done on that building regarding the purchase of it, the structural issues.
I think some of that has been done through due diligence with one of the interested parties. I don't have that at my fingertips. Can you speak to that, City Manager?
The only thing we've received is we do have, when we first started working on this, we did go out for a building inspection. We had a third party come in do a building inspection. I have that information, in document form, but that's the last thing we've done as far as any type of a inspection process.
Okay. So it's available. It's in the city's possession.
It is in the city's possession, yes.
All right. Would that be a public document or not?
I would think so. I would have to check to confirm, but I would think it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't be.
Okay.
If it is, can you get it to me and I can get it to
Yep.
Tom?
Yep.
The reason why I ask is you decided to buy the property pending that report. And there'll be costs, additional to whatever the 800 and how that's separated. There'll be separate costs along with whatever cost of that study, et cetera. So the bond for the Colonial is around 6. By the time it's paid off, it'll be about 7 million. But it's the second largest debt in the city. And there's a separate contract with Spectacle that runs out in '26. And that was almost for $1 million. So that will re-up next June. You'll have to sign a new contract with Spectacle if you stay with them. And you're talking about, again, it's $150,000, $160,000 a year for them to manage that building. So you're talking about another $1 million potentially to the taxpayers. So 7, that's $8 million. The cost of the actual purchase of the building plus renovations is not a public figure. But if you're at somewhere,
I think it is.
but it isn't without the cost of the whatever structural changes, et cetera, to that
Okay,
building.
Go backwards just a little bit. I'm sorry. Are you talking about the original investment in the Colonial Theater?
I'm talking about the bond that's outstanding on the Colonial from the purchase of that.
So the purchase and the renovations, all of that information is public information.
No, I understand.
But you just said it wasn't public information, so the debt associated with the Colonial Theater has always been public information.
No, I just stated that it'll be 7 million by the
Perhaps I
time.
misunderstood
By
what
the
you said.
time it's paid for, it'll be $7 million.
Well, the outstanding investment on it, I think, is more than that, but.
Well, that's my point. Thank you for making that for me. So we have 7 plus 1 for Spectacle. And now that will re-up, so that's potentially another 1 million. So that brings it up to 8 plus now the purchase price for the Antique Mall building brings it up to, potentially $9+ million of debt that Laconia will carry. And Spectacle sees all the return of profit on that building for managing it. So I understand the focus is the renaissance of the business district, which that's kind of, it's like the casinos. You're speculating on a return on investment. But it's a very, very heavy debt. And in my opinion, if you're going to ask the taxpayers to pay for this, then these numbers need to be public. And they need to be reported as well, because the story is not making it out. People, they see their tax bill, they don't understand the debt and why their taxes are going up, et cetera. And you're going to put more onto them, so the tax is going to go up, will go up further. So I ask that it be a public process, that's all, that the
I think,
information be public.
let me interrupt you there. I think outside of that is prescribed by state law, has remained non-public for just a very specific reasons, as far as some of the non-public discussions about what's leading up to any potential transaction. So that, the council has abided by those RSA and been very focused but limited as far as what's been discussed in non-public session. So that everything else has been very much a public discussion to the extent that what the city's desire was, what some of the purchase, what the purchase price may be, what the potential obstacles as far as renovation costs may be. So, I mean, I think there's been a pretty broad-ranging discussion from the council here. But certainly, if there's something as far as information data that you don't have and you feel like you should have, please let the city manager know. And anything that's public certainly would be shared with any member of the public. So I want you to understand that if you feel like you're missing something or there's some holes, let's work together and get you that information. I don't think, and it's no counselor's intention to keep anything from the public in this regard. So
Yeah,
you make a good point, though. It is, you're right, it is expensive, and
it's a very significant debt. This has been a working class city for the most part. The demographics are changing, but nonetheless, people, they're seeing changes in their tax bill, and I don't know the particulars of that. But taxes generally go up, they don't go down, so.
That is true, they don't. But I think you also see in this city, we've been very fortunate to set up tax increment financing districts, which has taken a portion of all new taxes raised because of renovation and new construction, and they've taken a portion of that and put it into a TIF district, which from that pays for the bonds. So it is tax money, don't get me wrong, but it is not coming out of what might be ordinarily the general fund of taxes in the city. So is that a distinction without a difference? Some may say it's not. Public funds are public funds, and I certainly can appreciate that discussion. But the city, long before I think any one of us got here, tried to do some sort of more innovative financing options to pay for investments in certain areas. So you see increased tax revenue simply because it becomes a more appealing place to maybe live or do business.
Yeah, I understand that
Okay.
concept. Does anyone know the approximate value of taking those two buildings off the property tax roll?
Which two?
The Colonial Theater and the Antique Mall property.
I think, I don't have it, but I think you can look in, you go back in the tax records and determine what the previous owner of that building was paying.
Because that's also, that's a debt, that's, a further, increase.
You're
So-
absolutely right, it is. So I think the balance that previous councils and mayor, city manager did was, if that were to come off the tax rolls, would the increase in property value surrounding it more than make up for what was taken off the tax rolls?
Okay.
That's a constant balancing and rebalancing, but I think you raise a good point. I think previous councils and the previous mayor tried to weigh both options before they just jumped headlong into debt, and I think this
Yeah,
council's
that's
been pretty
great, and
good.
thank you for that explanation. I feel like, I hope this will be, I assume you're the reporter? I
It's
assume
okay if
this-
you
the
just,
story
it's
will
okay
make
if
it
you
out.
talk to us and pound away at us, but we'll leave him alone,
Okay,
okay?
and the very last thing I want to ask about, say with this building, if it's purchased, and the docks, is the ADA being addressed in both of those properties?
Is
In
the
all
what?
of in terms of access,
Oh,
accessibility,
the ADA.
in design, yes.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, I think, I would look to the city manager, but I think anything that's
Yes.
being done here has to be compliant with ADA, that's a really good point.
Because there's significant cost in that as well.
Absolutely, there is, yeah.
Okay.
It's something we need to be aware of. The docks, I can't speak to specifically, but,
Yeah, they are.
yeah,
All right, thank you.
good stuff. Thank you
All
very
right,
much,
thank
Mr.
you.
Scrivener.
All right.
I get done.
Anyone else like to speak tonight? Leave the reporters alone. I hope you picked up on that, okay?
Wait a minute.
Not us. All right, thank you. Let's move on a little bit here. Moving on to agenda item number 13. 13A, which is a public hearing relative to the acceptance of an award in the amount of $10,680 from the Department of Safety Homeland Security Grant Program for the purchase of SWAT SOU equipment for the Laconia Police Department. Notice of this public hearing was made available in the December 26, 2024 edition of the Laconia Daily Sun, posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of the SAU. Action on this item may be taken up under unfinished business later on this evening. Right now, I'd like to open up the public hearing on this matter at 7:24 p.m. And if anyone would like to speak to it, please feel free to step right up and share your thoughts. Seeing no one, let's approach the microphone. I'd like to close the public hearing on this matter at 7:25 PM. We have no presentations. We move along to the mayor's report. I'll try to keep this relatively brief, but there are a couple of things I'd like to cover this evening. First and foremost, I think all of us were made aware, and maybe even set our own eyes on it, to some vandalism downtown in the form of graffiti around some downtown businesses. It's always shocking to see when someone decides that's how they want to express themselves at the expense of property owners and businesses downtown. And it was a disgusting display, to say the least, without getting into the details of it. What I would like to say, though, less than 48 hours after these acts were first reported, the Laconia Police Department made arrests of 2 people who have been charged and will be arraigned in the next month or so for this. I want to say to our community that stepped up to not only share videos and photos of the alleged suspect, or the suspects in this matter, thank you. To the property owners downtown who took it upon themselves at great expense to immediately clean their buildings of this most distasteful type of vandalism, thank you. And certainly to our prosecutors who will now take this matter over. And certainly I hope that not only are the people accused, if they are convicted, that they will be held responsible and they will be forced to pay restitution to the property owners that had to pay out of pocket to have their property repaired and to take this graffiti off the sidewalls. So thank you to the police department. Thank you to the prosecutor's office as we bring this next phase. And second of all, to the property owners, I hope that we're able, the court system is able to reimburse you for anything that came out of pocket. Secondly, and maybe a little more in detail here, it was, let's see if I can stay organized here. This is in regards to issues of housing in the city, really throughout the whole area. One of the biggest challenges that we have faced in this area is the lack of housing and perhaps the, at times, excess of really high-end housing, but not enough housing for people who can't afford million-dollar places. As we all know, in, I believe, September of 2024, the City Council put out a request for qualifications in regards to property on Old North Main Street, which is a 10-acre parcel that the city owns. We received a fair amount of feedback from the public at the time about concerns about what the city intended to do and what could happen or might happen. In the interim, we have in fact received a number of bids from respondents as to what they might envision on that property. I know all of us have not had an opportunity to review any of the responses to this RFQ. Taking a step back and giving an opportunity to sort of let the idea and concerns percolate a bit. And certainly I think all of us took the concerns of the citizens who showed up very seriously. And so in light of that, I think it's the city's obligation that if it puts out a request for qualifications or statement of interest, that we must address it. We put the request out, we should do something about it, either take another look at them or at least let the public know that we're not going to do anything about those, we're not going to do anything in regards to what we've received. Over the past couple of weeks, in looking through the City Council rules of procedure, Rule 24 J1 allows the city to create a special ad hoc citizen advisory commission. Probably should have made copies for all of you. I did not. I don't know if you brought any with you, but it is in your books. The Special Ad Hoc Citizen Advisory Committee is a special ad hoc citizen advisory committees. It indicates it may be created by the council for a particular purpose. All committee members shall be appointed by the mayor shall appoint the chair of the committee. What I thought the council should consider doing is, if it sees fit to create this committee, I would like to, if it is created, I would like to immediately appoint Counselor Cheney, as this property is in his ward. It's very close to Counselor Hoffman's ward as well. I'd like to appoint them both to this ad hoc committee. I would request that the city manager work to staff with his people at City Hall to staff a public meeting. And I would ask all of you as counselors to, if this committee is created, I would ask you to make recommendations to have your constituents appointed to the committee. I think nothing here, I don't want to do anything here that gives the impression that anything is being done out of the view of the people we represent. And in so doing, putting this committee together, having a hearing, a meeting publicly, have representation from the community at large to review the responses to the RFQ and discuss them, debate them, maybe bury them, say not one of them is worth a further discussion, or maybe looking at one or all four of them and saying, you know, we might like a presentation from this respondent to talk further about what they envision here. I would like the public to weigh in on this. I'd like your constituents, our constituents, to have an opportunity to sit here at the table with us and go through it. And I'd like us to build a consensus as to, once again, is it worth pursuing in any way, shape, or form? Or is it just not the right time, not the right place, not the right responses that we're looking for? But if we so do it in the full view of the public with complete transparency, I'd like to think that we can all put our minds together here and maybe take some step, maybe just learn from our mistakes in the way of saying, what does housing look like in this city going forward? So I'm happy to discuss this if anyone wants to discuss it right now or has questions for me that maybe myself or the city manager might be able to share. He's an expert in the procedural book, might be able to answer this. Counselor Susie, yes.
Like copies of what you have.
I think you probably have it in your council book, but I'm happy to give you what I have here.
Okay. And could we get copies of the responses that we had to the RFP?
So here's what I would like to do with the responses. I would like to initially share the responses. I'd like to look at them. If we create this committee and we have this first meeting, at that point, I think we share it with all of the people sitting at the table. And I'd like to let them be the first people to take a look at it. That's not to mean that you would not, I know you want to be first and you're giving me an exasperated look, and I'm sure you have a great concern. And I'm happy to, it's not up to me. So you can ask the city manager if you like. It's not up to me, but this is how I would envision it. Let's start with the group of people we put at the table, and certainly after, maybe even share that simultaneously with you. But instead of, I think a little more structured rollout here would probably be wise. Give us all ample time to go through them, vet them, see whether we like them or can't stand them, but certainly wouldn't keep it from you. Is that acceptable, Counselor Susie?
I'll ask the city manager.
Okay, fair enough. Counselor Cheney?
Mr. Mayor, can you give us some idea of how large you think this committee might be?
8, 10, 12?
Okay.
As you begin to think about it, if you think it should be larger? No. Okay,
I'm sorry, no, Mayor. I think the more people you have, the more conversation, and it seems to, at least to me, it seems like it goes nowhere. It's talking about talking.
okay. So, do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, I do. I think, at least theoretically, the people who live in that area should be included, at least representation. But
Fine.
there are six wards here, and people in other wards may have comments to make or concerns to express. So
Yes.
8 or 10 sounds like a good number to me, which would allow each ward to put somebody in if you know somebody that would like, if he know. And then the counselor and I and some people from Old North Maine, a combination of those would be my preference.
No, don't get me wrong, I don't, 10 or 12, I don't have a problem with. But when you start to get 20, 30, 40,
Okay, I'm with you.
Let me also say, that
talking about talking.
those meetings will be public as well.
Yeah,
So the
that would be
public can
that
come
would
in.
be a
Yes.
public meeting,
Yes.
certainly. So though they may not be sitting at the table, we'll say there's certainly, it's a public meeting, right? And,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, are we, the council itself, gonna see these documents before we make a decision on a committee? Or are we gonna be
What documents are you looking for, Counselor?
the recommendations from the RFQ?
There are no recommendations.
There are no
There's
recommendations.
some documents
Yes.
that were submitted
RFQs.
from the RFQs.
So let me clarify that. What the city has received is, as I understand it, 4 responses, individual responses to the RFQ. That is in the city's possession. I don't believe anyone at the city has reviewed those, even looked at them at all. So what the first job of this ad hoc committee would be for all people appointed to it to sit down and review all 4 of them. I don't think there's any reason why that wouldn't be shared simultaneously with other counselors as well. Does that answer your question?
So for the short answer is no, we're not gonna see it prior to discussing making a committee. Unless I go to the city councilor and, to the city manager and say, I'd like to see it.
Oh, sure, I guess so. I don't think they're,
I'd just like to see, the reason why I'm asking, I wanna see what I'm asking a committee to look at. And before I say I want a committee or not, vote one way or the other. I'm just one of 6 votes, but I would
so I
love
think
to
the
see.
question that you would pose to the person is, would you be willing to sit on the citizens committee and review 4 responses to an RFQ in regards to housing on North Main Street that was submitted in September of 2024? Because that's all that we know right now, that's all that we have.
It'll be like any other committee, they're gonna recommend whether it comes to the council or not.
Well, why wouldn't we see it prior to making the decision about a committee? I don't know, in any place where we're gonna set up a committee or something, you at least know what you're setting up a committee for.
I just told you
I
what we're setting it up.
understand, but I would
think-
like to see, and I appreciate that, but I would like to see, even if it's just stays in his office,
Well,
with it.
I don't see.
I don't need to
I don't
have
see why, look,
copies
you can
from-
have, I suppose if you want to see it, just go and ask him and see it. I haven't looked at it, I don't think the city manager's looked at it. All we know is we have 4 responses, and they probably should be reviewed. If you feel the need that you have to get in there before you can make a recommendation, strikes me as a bit peculiar, but, okay.
Might be perceived as being peculiar, but I err on the side of safe. I wanna make sure that,
What,
I just wanna look at it so I know what I'm voting on. I don't wanna vote on a pig and a poke.
you're at, the only thing you're asking to vote on, if there is a vote tonight, that would be to create this committee to do that legwork.
And
You're
that's
not
what I'm
voting
saying.
on what,
I
whether,
can't say that I wanna make this committee until I can see this. And I would really love to see it before we vote on moving forward with a committee to look at something that no one's looked at.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
sure.
I would say to you, this is sort of like saying, I'd like to know what a TIF committee's gonna do before they do it. And listen, no one's more concerned about that 10 acres on Old North Main and North Main than I am. But I think we put out an RFQ, we got responses. I think we now have an obligation to at least review them and review them with the people who live there, because they have a right to know what that's all about. I'm agreeing to this only because the mayor has agreed that it would include citizens and people from that area. For that reason, I'm gonna support it. I'm not a strong supporter of the idea, but I'm a strong supporter of the idea of letting those folks see what we got. I almost think that's better than us seeing it, to be honest with you.
And that's what all our committees do. We don't always see all the information that goes before a committee.
Well, that's what I'm saying about the TIF committee. We don't see
Right.
what goes to them, but we
Yeah,
we
planning,
form 'em. I mean,
zoning.
those things
Yeah.
do happen, Steve. Counselor, I look forward to letting the people citizens and people who live on Old North Main to come and look at this and then talk to us.
Yep.
That's where I'm at. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I appreciate you shedding some light on it. So, that is, that is my suggestion on how to handle this. If someone has a better, or another, certainly, another idea on how to better handle it, I'm all ears, just here to bring ideas and facilitate the city council meeting.
I would just add that I think it's clear that we need more housing in the city, and I think if we're gonna even entertain the idea of developing that area on Old North Main, I think it needs to be a transparent process that involves the residents of that area. And this seems like a good way to go to me.
And if, one other thing, I think you have a right to meet with the manager and ask to see those if you feel that strongly. I don't
Oh,
think
yeah,
that's.
definitely.
I don't know, I don't think there's anything that prevents people, I don't know if it's a public document necessarily, but I think it's, probably doesn't fall into some protected class of documents that the city has in its possession, do you?
No, I don't think that, I think that when we do RFQs, we don't, it's not public until the opening. There wasn't, I'd have to look to see if we did a true opening of them. So I can take a look at that. But no, I mean, there's nothing that we can't share, one-on-one with you. I would, I would tell you that I did look at them, and when it went away that we were gonna do them, they went on the shelf, and I was asked, by one of the residents, Council Cheney and I were actually asked, well, what'd they look like? What'd you think? So there's some interest in that. That's what I think has triggered some of this to want to say, well, maybe we should look at it from a group standpoint, so.
Let's just get a broad array of
Yeah.
people to sit on this council, open them up, review them, do it in public, have a public discussion, and to say, thumbs up, thumbs down, wrong place, wrong time, or maybe something here makes sense. We'd like to maybe bring in a respondent or two or three or all four of them and say, talk about your proposal. Let people listen to what they're talking about. One of the concerns of many people, it seems to me, was they didn't know enough about it and they were fearful. So this may be an opportunity for them to take a look at this and not be, understand it more and still be against it perhaps, or look at it a little bit more and say, okay, nothing to be fearful of. I may not agree with it 100%, but nothing to be fearful for. So, and that's, I think, is just better public policy. So, go ahead, Tony.
So I
Counselor Felch.
completely agree with pretty much everything that's been said, and I believe I agree that there should be a committee formed. So if you need a motion for that, I'd be willing to make that motion.
All right, so Counselor Felch makes a motion for, under Rule 24, let me get this right, sorry.
For Jay?
Under Rule 24, capital J, subsection 1, Special Ad Hoc Citizen Advisory Committee. Counselor Felch has made the motion, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Counselor Cheney and Counselor Hoffman, for your willingness to serve on this, and I look forward to working with you all. Okay, that concludes my long mayor's report this evening, and I would look to Council comments. Counselor Haynes.
Thank you. I have two, Mayor. The first one is the New England Wolves and their dedication game to John Bradley Thompson, the young man that lost his life to childhood cancer. The Wolves raised in their dedication game $62,000 for Cure Starts Now. And I think that's a tribute to the generosity of the people of this area. Second of all, I'd just like to mention the passing of the Court Street businessman Ralph Sambin, Sambin's Auto Repair. He passed away, I think it was Friday or Saturday.
New England Wolves record.
They actually, the last year raised 47,000. So
How
they,
about their wins and losses? Their wins and loss record. They were undefeated for a long time.
no, the younger team was undefeated.
Okay.
They finally lost the game.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
However, they did beat the Boston Dukes 7-3 in their game Saturday night.
Counselor Chief.
I only have one item, and that is to ask, and in fairness, I should tell you, the manager has been in touch with me, but I would like to ask that at some point in the not-too-distant future, we have a report to the council on Ole Anderson's letter of resignation from the Board of Trustees. I'd like to know that the issues he brought up are being dealt with. I've known Ole for a long time. He's not a casual person. He wouldn't suggest things that shouldn't be looked at. So I'm hoping I know we'll get a report on that, but I wanted to mention it tonight. That's it. Thank you, sir.
Any other council comments this evening? How about committee reports? Liaison reports? Okay. Agenda item number 19, citizens request to comment on current agenda items. If someone is here and would like to speak to a current agenda item, now would be the appropriate time. Mr. Flanagan, welcome back.
It's me again, 24 Allen Ave, and I saw on the agenda, and I've actually, Wes Anderson has been, I live in Allen Ave, it's one of the streets that we're trying to get accepted, and Wes has been very helpful in guiding me along the process, and I found out today, actually, which is good news, that, because I've been diligently collecting signatures and keeping on top of the, we have 3 people that actually have addresses on Allen Ave, and we have 7 that are abutters. So it's difficult, because most of the abutters are only there 3 months a year, June, July, and August, and then they're off to Florida. And Wes has helped me in working to get contact with these people and get the necessary paperwork through. But long story short, I pleasantly found out today that now it's a majority of people live on, or that are on that street, that you will consider accepting the road. And we have 10 people on Allen Ave, and I have 6 signatures. So I just wanted to get an idea, and I think tonight, Wes, the process is gonna start for Jane's to be accepted along with Hillcrest. What the timeline is for you guys to look at Allen Ave. Again, Wes has been very helpful, and I just wanna know if there's any, in fact, I saw him today, and that's when I found out that, it's a majority that needs to be done, so.
Okay, a good question, I don't know.
Well, I can just make a quick comment to it. I think that the 2 streets that we're working on right now are, there's been so much in the works with these streets that they were the easier to start with, because the process is a little bit new. As this process, which will take a couple of months to go through, ramps up, if it goes well and goes as expected, we're gonna definitely take a look at those other streets that fit, like Alan, like you're talking about. There's a few streets that fit under that. So, I think if these next couple of months go as expected to go, those other streets will ramp up relatively quickly.
Okay, great, thanks for your help.
Thank you. Anyone else here for citizens request to comment on current agenda items? Seeing no one else, I will look at the city manager for the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Your financial and operational trends this month. is in front of you. Building permits down a little bit from where they've been the last couple of years, but we also know that usually we see, especially, we don't know what the next couple months are going to do, but if the snow doesn't fly, we'll generally see an uptick in building construction in those first couple months, which goes through to March 31st. So we still have a few months left on that. Fire calls, about the same. The general assistance, the voucher summary, you'll note that we budget for 70,000. We've spent 117. You guys moved some money in ARPA money over to help us get through this year. And as we're building the budget for next year, we're looking at a couple things. One, what do we put in there for money for next year? But also, is there anything from the city side that we can do to offset some of these costs so we can be not overspending every month? So a lot of moving parts with that, but we are looking at that.
Just a quick question on the gross relief and the voucher expense summary. Is 2024, was that year-to-date number as well? First page, bottom subsection, says 2024, 141,944.
Mr. Mayor, that is a year-end number.
That is a year-end number.
Well, is
Okay,
that a
thank you.
fiscal year?
That is correct.
The 2024 was
Fiscal year, that's correct.
fiscal
Mayor.
year.
It's fiscal year, but that's
But
as
that-
of
but
June
total.
30th,
The whole year.
2024.
Right,
Yes.
right. That was a total.
Thank you, that's a question I had. Thank you.
Yep, good question. Police department, seeing similar trends in call volume and percentage of increase. Property tax collection, yeah, you'll note that number's down a little bit than what it normally is right now on the percentage side of it. Bills went out a little bit later this year. I will state that there's a lot of moving parts in getting the tax bills out. Some of it's on the city side, some is on the school side, some is on the state side. And there was just kind of a perfect storm of a lot of issues to try to get them out on time this year. We identified what those issues were, and I don't think we're gonna have that same problem moving forward. So, there was no intent to get them out late, and they were being worked on, but it happened. And I think we've addressed the issue so that doesn't continually happen.
Is there an issue of penalties for people when they receive them? They receive them a little later than usual?
No,
They
we
didn't pay it on time?
No, we still had to give them the 30 days to pay, so that the time, the time is sliding. So it's from when we send it out, not from when we normally would collect it on.
Oh,
So they're,
okay.
yep, they're all
Okay,
set.
good. Yeah.
What's the last date then?
Friday. January 10th was the due date.
January 10th. So anything you collected up to, that's not here yet?
No, that's only through December.
Okay, that's what I want to be looking at, okay?
That's just, so you'll see a big increase in next month.
Right.
You'll see a big swing. Overtime numbers, there's a couple of them that are a little bit higher than normal, but we are addressing those in-house. Motor vehicle registration is in good position. Impact revenue fees. So one thing I will say, I don't remember if we talked about it, well, I know the council had to approve it, but I don't know if we've talked about it in a little while. We do have a third-party review of our impact fees. They're looking at, are we assessing fees appropriately as far as how much we should be, or are we over, are we under? They're looking at all that. They're looking at what we're assessing impact fees on to make sure that we're doing everything where we should be. It's a standard review that's done every handful of years. So that's being done now, and when that report comes back in, it goes to planning board and to you guys for approval. So if there's any adjustments, that'll be coming forward. And as I said, that's a place we always look to use if we need to spend money on department projects. Reserve fund balances, relatively unchanged. It's usually an end-of-the-year change that we put money into there. We do know that there's a couple of the accounts that we'll probably be working with the trustees on to use some funds out of this year, but that's standard year to year for us. Property maintenance actions, you'll note, one thing I'd just like to point to on that is on that code statistics, the property maintenance action, the last column to the right, the 9-0. We're trying to be proactive with some of our property maintenance stuff, and I think that's a little bit of a reflection right there. We're just trying to not always be reactive, and the planning department's taking that seriously, and they've been working on that. So we certainly always accept phone calls or emails to say, hey, there's a problem, we really think you should look at it, but we're also trying to have our property maintenance personnel out and driving around and being proactive. Boat taxes where they usually are, general fund and revenue. Our revenue is above our expenditures, that's the key ticket there. EMS billing, we've just completed through the year. That's a calendar year that they show there. December is very low because not all the numbers are in yet. So we'll be, nothing's changed with what we're tracking. We'll see how December made out for a total number of trips.
Kirk, could you sometime say put it in your calendar, March or April, just do a deep dive on our EMS billing report for the previous calendar year. That should have a good chunk of the money from the end of the calendar year paid at that point or not paid.
Yep.
Just
we
to
can do
get
that.
some sense. I think it's an easy one to lose track of, unfortunately. There was a time, as you know well, that was paid for by the hospital.
Yes.
And then we decided this was going to be our responsibility. I'd just like us all to have a good idea of how much it costs, how much are we taking in, what's the delta look like, is it, maybe some trends.
Yep.
that we're
No,
watching
we
over the
can
past
absolutely
year.
do that. We did that not that long ago, probably 6 months ago, so we can see even trends from the last time we did it.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
We'll pull that together.
And as you probably already know, through the municipal association, I believe there's at least one bill that's been filed to increase surface ambulance reimbursement rates as well. That'll be,
And we did receive an increase in Medicaid and Medicare reimbursables last year, which from the last time we trended this out, we should be able to see, if we're seeing a difference in that. So I'm sure we are, but it'll be nice. We'll work on that and pull that together.
thank you.
Yep. Storm cost is doing well, knock on wood. They've been out, but it hasn't been crazy yet, so I don't know. I'd say that's a good thing, but I don't know, maybe if we wanted to do a lot of snow, it's not a good thing, but we're doing well with that, and the balance, the funding is where we should be. And that's all I have for you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the city manager? Seeing none. Mr. Scribner, I'm glad you're still here. This may be helpful or not helpful. We get once a month our tax increment financing balances provided to us. It's on the website as well. So if you have questions about how are we paying down debt, how are we planning for long-term debt, you can get a sense of what we have, say, earmarked for some of that debt just in the city reports. Again, that's not to, it is still public funding. It is still impacts the taxpayers, but how the city is sort of planning for investments and reinvestments in 3 areas, that being downtown Lakeport and Weirs. So if you see those numbers, you might reach out to somebody here on the council or the city manager to sort of go through it a little bit. I think it's kind of helpful in a way. It doesn't mean somebody's not spending it wisely, but it's good raw numbers anyway. New business. Item number 21. 21A, review of the process to lay out public roads over private streets where only a majority of property owners have provided easements. Kirk, would you walk us through this at this point and give us what we think might be next steps?
Sure. So the document that you have right now is just sort of a guideline of what we'll be doing. This is for the properties that we're looking to make private roads public, that received a majority of approvals, if you will, by the owners, but not everybody. And we've talked about this a little bit in the past. We're starting with 2 streets in particular, Hillcrest and Janes. The next steps of these are the planning board is going to need to approve the layout of the street. Hillcrest has already been done because it went through their process. Jane will have to go back to them because it just the timing that it was done when it was created, it wasn't laid out that way. So that's relatively simple. If for some reason the city council, the planning board was to say no to a street like Jane, it comes back to you and you actually have the approval to override that if you chose to. But that's getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but gives you that opportunity. this, at the next meeting, you guys will be asked to move these two streets forward to a public hearing. We're gonna move that public hearing out 60 days. That's gonna give us the opportunity, we already have a lot of the information, but it's gonna give us the opportunity to get all the easements, all the documentation to you. We have to give you guys quite a bit of information as a packet to say, this is what we're looking to do. It also gives opportunity for us to get information out to the owners, which makes sense, but we have to get it out to their mortgage companies and any lien holders, and there's a lot of moving parts in this that was never done for the simple reason because we knew it wasn't gonna be moving forward, but now there's an opportunity to do that. We'll do the public hearing. You guys will have the opportunity to look at whatever, if you look in the document that was in your packet, on number 4, it lists out some things that you want to consider, as to whether or not you want to accept it. You guys just choose to accept the streets, then we can move on to the next part, which is, there is, an opportunity for, landowners who were against doing this and didn't give us the easements to potentially have some damages assessed against the city. It's just, and we'll have at the public hearing, we will have, and we can do it at the next meeting if you choose, but certainly at the public hearing night, we will have our attorneys here to help answer any of these questions. But that'll be a piece that we'll have to go through once that agreement is done. We will handle the damages, and then the streets will become public. I think, choosing to do the two streets we're choosing, we're done because there's been so much work done over the course of a number of years. Before I was in the position, quite a few years now, you guys have been dealing with these. So I think we have a lot of background, a lot of history on them, that helps move these along. This is gonna give us the opportunity to have this process down. You'll be a little bit more of a flow, and we can move on. So at your January 27th meeting, you'll be, given some more of this information and a request to set up a public hearing. And again, that public hearing wouldn't be until end of March, beginning of April. So,
Okay, thank you. Counselor Susie.
A couple of questions, Mr. Manager. So, just to make sure I understand clearly, okay, the final decision on moving ahead with these streets will lie with the city council?
correct.
Okay, and then prior to this, the other thing is, you have some owners that did not agree to the easements?
Yes.
So the layouts that we have, or we will be presented, will, in other words, will show us what we're doing that they didn't want done?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, you'll see all that.
We'll see all of that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good, thank you.
No problem. Counselor Bogert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Will there be also cost impact to the budget included in these packets for the streets, showing that what it's gonna cost us when we take it over?
Yeah, I don't think we had planned on putting that in there, but we certainly can do a rough estimate to say that if we were to do all the work we wanted to do on a particular street today, this is what it would cost. We don't know if it's that today, are we gonna do that now? We're gonna do that 10 years from now, but yeah, we could put something like that together for that.
Thank you.
Yep.
It's Counselor Felch.
Does James have to go back to planning before we request a public hearing?
Look to us. No, you'll be able to do it. No, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right, so we don't have to put this on the table or anything. There's no motion attached to it. It's just kind of for information purposes, and we'll start the
Correct.
process moving.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 21B, which is a request to submit a grant application to and accept grant funding from the State of New Hampshire Transportation Alternatives Program, TAP grant, for segments of D, F, G, H of the Wild Trail Opeechee Loop. Kirk, would you walk us through this just briefly and?
Yeah, so this is part of the state's 10-year plan. So we're looking to get in on a potential grant that would help expand the Wild Trail. And I couldn't tell you what they are off the top of my head, but on the back of the resolution, it shows the map of where some of the expansion would be. This could be anywhere, like I said, up to 10 years if we were to even get on the plan. So we know that there is a dollar figure that the city would be required to match. Knowing that it's gonna be a number of years out, we haven't necessarily identified it, but we've also identified that this could be we've talked about the Wild Trail with public-private partnerships before, you know, there's a lot of opportunity. What this does is even to see if we can get on the state's list. They may say no to accepting it, but at least it would get us, in the queue to see what would happen. This is, even though we're looking to do a public hearing, to apply, it would still have to be approved by you when it comes back. So, and I don't even know when that would be, but, this is looking to just at least get us started.
Okay, and I see there's a city share on this of 20% of the total cost, and that is something that will be, there's pursuit of grant opportunities in regards for this,
Yeah,
correct? Northern
there's-
Borders,
There's grant opportunities, there's maybe some public-private partnerships involved in it. There's a lot of different areas that it has not been identified yet. That money's not identified as to where it would come from at this point.
so this gets us on the list to get us included in the 10-year plan. If we're in the 10-year plan, then it's the city's obligation to sort of, can we stack grants and funding opportunities to cover our share?
Yep, which is similar to how we've done other projects throughout the city. Yep.
And even if we are on this 10-year plan, there's let's say we don't come up with dime one, or future councils decide they don't want to fund it, we don't have to do the work.
Right.
Okay. Counselor Susie.
One question, do you have, on the, is there any particular reason why segment E was not included, or is that because they're looking to work with the people for the state school development?
Segment E, up there.
Yep.
I don't have the answer to that question unless, I don't have the answer.
I don't think that's part of the WOW
Yeah,
trail, that it's just to, I think it's been tentative, hasn't it? That As
Yeah.
far as they're going to put recreational trails in there, but I don't know if it necessarily becomes part of the WOW trail.
I don't think it does, but the conversation has been made on a number of occasions in public, even with the state school developers about making, trying to expand
Whole thing.
trails to include in there, so.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
that's my question.
That was,
Thank you,
might have
sir.
been a letter we filed some time ago asking them to make sure that whoever does the development there makes accommodations so you could integrate that
Yeah,
trail.
because
with
I think they'd want to, because that's gonna really be an enhancement to their neighborhoods.
it. Agreed. So, yeah. Yes, go right ahead, Council Barber.
Me?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kurt, is this already part of the 10-year plan?
No,
As
my,
far as the DOT 10-year?
no, my
plan?
understanding is no. Yeah, no, it's not.
So, just to update you on that, the 10-year plan does not get reviewed until the following year.
Yeah, so
Just to let
we
you
still got a
know.
ways to go before yeah. Grant, our input though is required, like within a month. So, that's why we're trying to get this in, but that's good to know.
Council Felch.
So yes, I know the WOW Trail has been in touch with the property, state school property, and this part of, that you're mentioning is actually considered off-road versus being on the
Right.
side of the road.
Right.
So that's why it's not in there.
No, I just wanna make sure, because I think it's a great thing to do, I just wanna make sure it goes all the way around.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Council Hoffman.
Yeah, how does that work with the state park as well? Are they gonna assist with marking the trail through the state park to connect,
That's what it looks like.
connect the entire loop?
Yes.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah,
I looked at it.
it's supposed to go right through Elacoya, not Elacoya.
Ahern?
Ahern.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
New Hampshire residents only.
that's up to, yeah, that's up to them to get that squared away. That's, yeah. Okay. Right now, I'll be looking for a series of three motions. First motion I'm looking for is a motion to move to waive the reading of Resolution 2025-02 in its entirety, to read by title only, so made by Counselor Cheney, second by Counselor Hoffman. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Next, looking for a motion to move a first reading of Resolution 2025-02 relative to submitting a grant application to and accepting grant funding from the State of New Hampshire Transportation Alternatives Program, TAP, for segments D, F, G, and H of the WOW Trail O-Pee-Chee Loop. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Susie. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Finally, on this matter, looking for a motion to move to schedule a public hearing on January 27th, 2025, bringing a regular city council meeting together, public input prior to any action being taken. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Susie. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Agenda item number 21C, which is Resolution 2025-01, request to change traffic restrictions on Lexington Drive. This is a matter that's been brought by Counselor Cheney, and I will again look to City Manager maybe to just give us a high-level view or enough information so everyone feels confident enough to vote on it.
Request was made to change the do not enter sign on Lexington, that prevents traffic from going out if you're coming out of the industrial park to the right, coming out of a business, right or left, towards Shore Drive, and then bypassing the traffic downtown. It's been requested to make it a no through traffic sign as opposed to do not enter. Due to the traffic control laws that were in place, we didn't have that option when it was first done. Now they do. So this is just looking to change that sign for those purposes. This will require a public hearing, so there's a couple motions on there.
Okay, you satisfied with this going to a
Yeah,
public hearing?
thank you, sir.
Yes. So right now, in this matter, it's also a series of 3 motions looking here. First one is motion to waive a reading of Resolution 2025-01 in its entirety, read by title only, so made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Felch. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. With 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Next on this matter, looking for a motion to move a first reading of Resolution 2025-01 relative to removal of the do not enter from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday sign in the vicinity of 155 Lexington Drive and installation of a no through traffic from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday sign in its place. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Finally, on this matter, looking for a motion to move to schedule a public hearing on January 27th, 2025, during the regular City Council meeting for Resolution 2025-01 relative to removal of the do not enter from 3 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday sign in the vicinity of 155 Lexington Drive, and installation of a no through traffic from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday sign in its place. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Susie. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes as well. Moving on, 21C, moving on to, thank God, goodness for putting the alphanumeric. Jammed up all the time, so once again, thank you. Agenda item number 22 under unfinished business, Resolution 2024-29 relative to acceptance of an award in the amount of $10,680 from the Department of Safety Homeland Security Grant Program for the purchase of SWAT SOU equipment for the Laconia Police Department. The city has applied to the New Hampshire Department of Safety for grant funding in the amount of $10,680 to purchase SWAT SOU equipment through the Homeland Security Grant Program. At the December 23rd, 2024 City Council meeting, a motion was approved to schedule a public hearing in this matter. The public hearing was heard earlier this evening. No one testified. The entire cost of the equipment is covered by this Homeland Security grant. There is no local match requirement. On this matter, we're looking once again for a series of 3 motions. The first is to move to waive a reading of Resolution 2024-29 in its entirety and read by title only, so made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Felch. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Next on this matter, looking for a motion to move to a second reading of Resolution 2024-29 relative to acceptance of an award in the amount of $10,680 from the Department of Homeland Security Grant Program for the purchase of SWAT SOU equipment for the Laconia Police Department. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Hoffman. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Finally, on this matter, looking for a motion to move to approve Resolution 2024-29 relative to acceptance of an award in the amount of $10,680 from the Department of Homeland Security Grant Program for the purchase of SWAT SOU equipment for the Laconia Police Department as presented, and to authorize the city manager to sign all documents related to this matter. So made by Counselor Haynes, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 22B, a request to make portions of Howard Street no parking. The Public Works Subcommittee met on December 19th, 2024. After further review, the subcommittee determined that. And Counselor Haynes, if you'd like to lead on this.
Yes, we did.
Would you like to lead on this, or?
Yes, no.
Terrific.
I
know you
can
chaired
mention
it.
what the committee decided.
Thank you.
We looked at all kinds of the situations on that particular street and Victoria Woods and the whole situation. And we came to the conclusion that the bottleneck and the problem area was that particular corner right after the Brick Front Inn. the Brickfront Restaurant, I'm sorry. So the motion that is in front of you is, and if you follow the map, it's the red areas will be a no parking zone so that, that there can be movement in that particular area without any obstruction of vehicles, et cetera, and so on. And also, as far as the restaurant is concerned, there will be a, and I think Wes is still here, but there's gonna be a loading zone signs so that they can load and unload their vehicle, trucks as far as deliveries to the restaurant. So that was what the Public Works Committee came up with now.
And approved unanimously?
Yes.
Okay. And how does this negatively impact the Brickfront parking situation?
No, not
No,
at
it does
all.
not? Okay.
The only thing that did interfere with what I did mention, as far as the removal of the dumpsters and
right.
their deliveries on that side of Howard Street.
Does anyone have any comments on this? Look to the city manager first.
I just want to make one comment, only because I can't remember and it's not in here, but just for procedurally, could you add a take it off the table as your first vote? I can't remember if we actually officially table it or not, but it'll make me feel better if we throw that in there.
Okay.
Can't be wrong to have it on.
Need a motion to take this matter off the table so we could have had the discussion that we just, would you repeat that that whole thing you just said?
Sure.
Counselor Susie, motion to take it off the
I
table.
can't do it for word.
Counselor Hoffman, seconded. All those in favor of this item coming off the table, 6 votes in the affirmative, it's off the table. And by reference, we'll include the previous comments made by Counselor Haynes.
Oh, I can
Okay.
go back.
No.
I can't do it verbatim,
You're
but
off the hook. You're off the hook. It's on the record. All right. So right now, we're looking for a motion to approve the request to make the odd-numbered side of Howard Street, no parking from the southern boundary of 12 Howard Street to the west side of the pavement on the driveway into Victoria Woods, which is 16 Charlevoix Place. Well done. The even-numbered side of Howard Street, thanks for bailing me out on that. No parking with a loading zone plaque from the intersection of Howard Street with Church Street to the northeastern boundary of 12 Howard Street. The even-numbered side of Howard Street, no parking from the northeastern boundary of 12 Howard Street to the west side of the pavement on the driveway to Victoria Woods, which is 16 Charlevoix Place. That's the motion. Going to vote on this? So made by Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Hall. Is there any further discussion on this matter?
yeah, I just
Yes.
I'm in favor of that, obviously, but I'd like to ask the city manager, when these changes are made, are the police department made aware of these things? I mean, not only Howard Street, but when no parking somewhere else, or no through traffic, or whatever. Are they made
Yeah, we'll
aware?
make sure they're aware if they're
Okay.
not, but yeah, I'm sure they are, but we'll make sure.
Even if he doesn't, the people who want it will call the police and complain, so they'll get it.
And I
Any
can tell
further
you that
discussion?
the chief normally watches this. so,
Yes.
All
I
right.
did have one other question.
Yes, sir.
Do we have to include the loading zone in this motion?
We can amend the motion and put it in there, make sure it's covered, so there's no questions. So, since I made
It's
the
in
motion.
there.
Said it's in there.
It's in the second bullet point.
It's in there.
Oh, okay, I missed it. My bad.
Thank you, Wes.
All right, any other further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. I'm gonna make a request that we go into non-public session briefly this evening. When we return from non-public session, it will only be to adjourn tonight's meeting. No new business will be taken up. So, looking for a motion to go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91-A:3, Roman 2. consideration, parentheses, small d, consideration of the acquisition, sale, or lease of real personal property, which if discussed in public would likely benefit a party or parties whose interests are adverse to those of the general community. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Hoffman.
Yes.
All those in favor? Roll call.
Oh, that's right, roll call.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes.
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
6 votes. We are now in non-public session. I'd ask the clerk to please kill the live feed.